Okay.
To this PE Pays guest lecture. If you haven't had a chance to read Cedric, and I'm going to mispronounce his last name badly, I can't roll
Yeah,
close. I can't roll my R's very well. He's currently at the Catholic University of Leuven. He's been. That's only for a year, yeah. You've only been in
yes.
Yeah, for a year. Before that was at European University of Brittany. His research interests have to do with situational interest, and his presentation today is how PE teachers might motivate their students, situational interest in learning task design. So you're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you
very much.
Thank you very much. So, hello everyone, thanks for coming. Today I will be talking about how PE teachers can motivate students through situational interest and learning task design. I will begin my presentation with a short introduction about what we mean by interest. Then I will move on to the theoretical aspects of interest by exploring situational interest sources in PE. And finally, I will discuss the impact of learning task design on students' situational interests. As you all know, motivation has been identified in scientific literature as a key factor in educational achievement. And considering changes in the school population, PE teachers face the challenge of successfully motivating their students during their lessons. And taking this into account, researchers consider interest as a powerful motivational factor for students. Unlike motivational variables centered on student cognition, interest includes both a cognitive and affective component. And as an essential part of interest conceptualization, affect has led researchers to set interest apart from other motivational constraints. According to many researchers, students experience two forms of interest while participating in a physical activity, individual and situational. While individual interest is characterized by students' relatively stable preferences to a particular activity, situational interest relates more to an affective response generated by the stimuli present in the environment. And individual interest, which is influenced by an individual's knowledge and values, is person-specific, a long-term phenomenon, and develops when a student interacts with his environment. And given that individual interest is particular to an individual and encompasses inter-individual differences, researchers emphasize the challenge for teachers of considering it to design their lessons. And taking this into account, they tend to focus on situational interest as a major motivational variable. In physical education, situational interest is defined as the appealing effect of the characteristics of an activity on individuals. And in contrast to individual interest, it's assumed that SI is transitory, environmentally activated, and content specific or context specific. For this reason, educational researchers consider that SI possesses stronger motivational potential in daily teaching learning settings than individual interest, because teachers can enhance SI in their learning task by manipulating their components. And as SI is environmentally induced, educators can consciously design learning tasks by manipulating their components and then generate contextual stimuli in the environment in order to affect a positive reaction to the learning process and task. In the field of physical education, SI has been conceptualized as a multi-dimensional construct, including 5 dimensions: novelty, challenge, attention demand, exploration intention, and instant enjoyment. And according to Chen and his colleague, we can define these 5 dimensions as the following. Novelty refers to the difference between information already known by students and what they have to learn. Challenge is defined as the level of difficulty relative to one's ability. Attention demand is the concentrated cognition and mental energy required to learn a new activity. Exploration intention is conceptualized as the learning aspects that drive the learner to discover and explore. And instant enjoyment is defined as the characteristics of learning tasks that lead the learner to an instant positive feeling of being satisfied. And in addition to these 5 dimensions, the construct also includes a total interest component, which is an overall assessment of the task SI. In concrete terms, we can say that students may be situationally interesting when they are participating in a learning task if they perceive it as new, challenging, demanding particular concentration or attention, allowing them to explore the possibilities of the environment, and also offers them positive feelings, immediate enjoyment. Since SI is associated with variables that teachers may have control over, such as learning task design, it could have a stronger potential in motivating students to learn. Accordingly, it has been demonstrated that high SI has had positive effects on 4 elements. First, on the development of students' knowledge in PE. Second, on their level of energy expenditure. Third, on the pursuit of extracurricular activities. And fourth, on the learning strategies they use in PE. Now I'd like to move on the French PE curriculum. In order to better know this context, the French PE context is characterized by a national curriculum defining content and physical activities. And the ultimate aim of PE is to build an autonomous, culturally aware and balanced students by participating in a variety of physical activities. And as PE is valued as an academic school subject and has to justify its position in the school curriculum, students' cognitive engagement and intellectual development have been identified as 2 major aims. In fact, we have a strong cognitive tradition in French PE curriculum, and in addition, French PE context is also characterized by sports-related activities with an emphasis on their cultural meaning and skills development. Considering this, the purpose of this study was to build a model of SI based on the specificities of the French PE context. More precisely, this study aims at demonstrating which SI sources could be related to total interest, and as well as determine possible mediators effect among sources. And according to the specificities of the French PE context, we made 2 assumptions. First, we hypothesize that instant enjoyment and exploration intention should relate positively to total interest. And second, these 2 SI sources would mediate the effects of attention demand, novelty and challenge on total interest. In terms of method, The sample consisted of 601 students from 25 PE classes taken from 6 secondary schools located in the northwest region of France. Students were in the 6th to the 11th grade, and due to the large sample size of students, classes and grades, we have a variety of physical activities typical of the PE curriculum, such as athletics, gymnastics, dance, volleyball, basketball and other team sports, wrestling, orienteering, for example. The teachers involved in this study were told to teach their lessons as usual, and we used the French 19-item SI scales to measure the situational interest of the students, and we aggregated the response respectively to the 5 SI sources and to the total interest. So let's move to the results. We can see with this table the correlations analysis, and we can see that all the variables are correlated to one another except from instant enjoyment and challenge. And we can see that instant enjoyment and exploration intention are highly correlated with total interest, with high coefficients of 0.78 and 0.63. And challenge and novelty are the less correlated with total interest. After this analysis, we perform regressions and mediations analysis prior to draw a structural model of SI. And series of multiple regression analysis show that exploration intention and instant enjoyment were positive predictors of total interest, with the highest coefficient for instant enjoyment with 0.63. And had multiple correlations were observed between all the sources, we conduct 2 more regression analyses with instant enjoyment and exploration intention as dependent variables and the other sources as independent variables. And results show that exploration intention was a positive predictor for total interest, whereas challenge was a negative predictor. And also that instant enjoyment, challenge and attention demand positively predicts exploration intention. So this previous analysis, after this previous analysis, we were able to draw a structural model of SI, which is depicted in this figure. And focusing on the effects of SI sources on total interest, we can see 2 direct paths from instant enjoyment and exploration intention towards total interest. Exploration intention also have an indirect effect on total interest mediated by instant enjoyment. And indirect effects were also observed from challenge toward total interest mediated by instant enjoyment, and from attention demand toward total interest mediated by exploration intention. And finally, novelty has direct effects on attention demand and challenge, and indirect effects on instant enjoyment mediated by challenge, and exploration intention mediated by attention demand. So let's move to the discussion parts of the results. Consistent with the first assumptions, our findings suggest that instant enjoyment and total interest are strongly associated in PE. It seems that students perceive high situational interest where they find a learning task fun and enjoyable. And in this way, this result confirmed findings from Chen and Darst, who also reported strong correlation between instant enjoyment and total interest, and also results from Benaim Gross, who found that almost 3/4 of students report that PE provides them with fun and positive feelings. Besides this, a strong association between interest and enjoyment is well established in many other subject areas, such as sciences or reading. In summary, according to Ainley and Heady, we can say that interest and enjoyment may be complementary and reciprocal components of the experience when an individual is pursuing an idea, exploring and seeking new information, or creating a novel solution to a problem. Although our findings are relevant in the general field of interest, the critical role of enjoyment on SI can be explained by the fact that enjoyment is seen as the most effective consequence of quality PE. And when examining the enjoyment construct in PE, Hashim et al. Found that a high correlation between activity-generated excitement and PE enjoyment. All in all, many studies have considered that enjoyment represents a key factor underlying the motivation for students to maintain a positive engagement in PE. Despite the relevance of instant enjoyment in triggering students' SI, our results reveal that exploration intention also has direct effects on total interest. And the prevalence of exploration intention in the French PE curriculum is due to the fact that learning tasks are often cognitively driven, and we promote exploration of the environment. Basically, it's related to the value orientations of French PE teachers which are centered on disciplinary mastery and learning process. Since PE teachers are focused on understanding performance-related knowledge and learning how to learn the content of PE, they tend to encourage the exploration of the environments for their students, and that's why exploration intention is high in this context. And by doing this, French PE teachers encourage students to make choices based on their interpretation of the task, encouraging problem solving and decision making within the learning task. In addition to the direct effects observed between instant enjoyment, exploration intention, and total interest, we also found indirect effects from challenge to our total interest mediated by instant enjoyment. And since challenge is defined at the level of difficulty relative to one's ability, interpretations about the relationships between challenge and total interest instant enjoyment have to be made in the light of students' perceived ability. And according to Fairclough, children experience enjoyment and motivation when tasks they are involved in is comparable to the level of perceived ability. And the negative relation between challenge and instant enjoyment has to be interpreted as the need to find an optimal challenge in the learning task to promote students' instant enjoyment. The finding of the present study may have significant implications for PE teachers, and consistent with many studies in the field of interest, SI possesses a stronger motivational potential because teachers can enhance SI by manipulating the characteristics of the learning task. And the most effective way to motivate students is to build motivational components into the course content, especially those which enhance SI. For example, PE teachers can design a task with various ways to achieve it in order to promote exploration intention, or promote intense emotions or sensations to highlight the instant enjoyment, or demanding to students to focus on their movements during their trials in order to increase attention demand. And according to the model of I built in the French PE context, instant enjoyment and exploration intention appear to be two major motivational sources. This finding reinforces the importance for teachers to create exciting and stimulating activities for students. But motivating students in PE demands more than fun, because we have found that exploration intention also has an indirect effect on total interest, but also a direct effect on total interest. And considering it, teachers might design tasks that require not only physical engagement and enjoyment, but also higher order cognitive processes demanding active exploration. So, considering the theoretical model of SI and its practical implication, we think that PE teachers could enhance students' SI and their motivation by manipulating the characteristics of their learning task. And we have just seen that instant enjoyment and exploration intention are two major sources to motivate students. Therefore, the aim of the second study is to demonstrate the impact of learning task design on students' SI in PE, just to be sure that if we design a task with instant enjoyment and exploration intention, it will have an effect on students' SI. Well, the purpose of this study was to identify in individual sports the impact of learning task design on students' SI. Two learning tasks were designed in badminton to promote students' SI either through instant enjoyment and exploration intention or through novelty and challenge. We have chosen badminton because previous study made by Chen and Dorst was in basketball, so a team sport, and it has limited their generalization of their results. And these four SI sources were selected because they had different effects on students' SI. According to the model, we knew that instant enjoyment and exploration intention has direct effect on total interest, whereas challenge and novelty only have indirect effects on it. And so we've made two assumptions. First, we hypothesize that students will give higher scores to the sources on which the learning tasks were designed. And second, the learning task based on instant enjoyment and exploration intention should generate higher total interest score in comparison with the task based only in novelty and challenge. So, in terms of method, the sample of the present study consisted of 167 students from two secondary schools located in the northwest region of France. And students participated with a 3-week interval between the tasks to avoid proximity between the two tasks. And they start with the Banco task, which is the task designed with instant enjoyment and exploration intention. We used the same scale and we aggregated the response of the students respectively to the 5 sources and to the total interest. So let's move to the design of the learning task. The first task, called the Banco task, has for goal to strike a winning point. In this task, students were placed in single match of 20 points, and they have the possibility of scoring 3 points if they said loudly and clearly Banco before winning a point. And in addition to these Banco points, there were three extra points available. One for a winning smash that immediately reached the opponent's floor. One for a winning drop shot that falls straight to the floor. And one for a point score in an area located at the far end of the court. And during the match, the first player who scores the 3 extra points immediately wins the game, whatever the score was. So this task was designed to promote instant enjoyment and exploration intention. Instant enjoyment because students were in real gameplay and have the possibility of winning 3 points with the Banco points. And exploration intention because they were encouraged to score the 3 extra points, and then they were engaged in a tactical exploration of the environment, taking in account their opponent. The second task, called 3 in a row task, has for goal to win 3 consecutive points against 3 different opponents. In this second task, students were placed in 2 teams of 3 players and were opposed in single game. And the principle of the task was the winner stays on the court while the loser switches with one of his teammates. We then re-enter the courts and serve a new point. And to score 1 point for his team, students have to win 3 points in a row against 3 different opponents. In this second task, this task was totally new for students and promoted a challenge because they were involved in intense physical activity interrupted by short breaks when they have to switch with one of their teammates. So now you see the 2 different tasks. Let's move to the result. In terms of results, we can see that the scores of the 5 SI sources were different between the 2 tasks. And students give higher scores on instant enjoyment and exploration intention in the Banco task in comparison to the 3 in a row task, and higher scores to novelty and challenge in the 3 in a row task compared to the Banco task. It's easier to see on the target with the Banco task in green the difference between instant enjoyment and exploration intention, and with the blue for the 3 in a row, novelty and challenge, we were higher. There were no difference in the attention domain. And in addition, results show that total interest score were higher in the Banco task compared to the 3 in a row task, even if the score were very high in the 2 tasks. Well, consistent with the first assumption, the results indicated that students were receptive to the sources on which each task was designed. And in addition, the Banco task received higher total interest score in comparison to the 3 in a row task, which validated the second assumptions. All in all, the results of this study are consistent with the theoretical model of SI, and we have demonstrated that we can impact students' SI with the design of the learning task, and they perceive the difference between 2 learning tasks. So I hope you're clear now on situational interest, and thank you for your attention, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.